If there ever was a book that needed a session 0, it's gonna be this one. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Taraz and today I want to talk about Injuries and Vile Deeds by Lone Colossus Games, a company that has flown under my radar for quite a while, and I only recently discovered them through their current Kickstarter for Tome of Intangible Treasures, which I call the treasure book that isn't the treasure book. Link in the description below. Injuries and Vile Deeds is exactly what it is. It is a book about injuries, inflicting injuries to enemies, getting yourself injured, like cutting an arm off, and everything that's is actually intertwined with that. It is full of monsters, spells that want to make you want to go yuck, or there's feats in here, there are subclasses in here, and the artwork in here is incredibly good. The writing is very good, but there is one but, a big but. This book is not for everyone, and by that I mean it is for those types of players, those types of groups, those types of game masters that want to add more mechanics to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, compared to some other systems, is already a quite mechanic-heavy game. It's not like Pathfinder or anything, but it's quite mechanic-heavy compared to like the Cypher system or Shadow Dark or something like that. Only if you want to add extra mechanics to that, it is worth picking up something like this. It's the same with their current Kickstarter, Tome of Intangible Treasures. It is not a treasure book for 5th edition. It is a book about boons, blessings, pacts, all those kinds of things. Really cool stuff in there. I did a video on that. Make sure to click that somewhere here. It's the same thing. It's for people who want to add extra mechanics to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. If you're one of those people, this thing can be really good for you. Now, the reason I'm mentioning the other crowdfunding campaign, which I'm always calling Kickstarter for some reason, but it's actually a backer kit campaign, is because you as an add-on can take this book, the one I'm holding, the same one, the really high quality book with high quality art. You can take that as an add-on, including like these injury cards, which I will talk about in a little bit later, and then there is a deck of spell cards that you can take as an add-on for Tome of Intangible Treasures, and I think it is the only way right now to get this physical book. If you just want a PDF, you can also go to Drivethru RPG, but otherwise click the link description below to the backer kit and see if it is for you. Injuries and Vile Deeds is an incredibly high quality hardcover book with high quality art in here and everything. There's just like one thing about it that's really weird. It smells incredibly weird. Like, I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know where it came from or what spell was cast on it, but it smells really badly. It's not like bad enough for you not to use it, and it goes away after a while, right, by opening it, but it smells really weird. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the PDF to Injuries and Vile Deeds. Still the easiest way to show a book to you. And Injuries and Vile Deeds, as you can see from the artwork, it's just incredible artwork. For example, here this dude is getting his face burnt off, which is probably going to be like a deadly or a severe injury or something like that. There's a few things that I want to talk about in this video, but there is way too much, as you can see, to talk about in this book. So I really have to like pick and choose some stuff that I find amazing for you to like get an idea of what the book is. First thing that I want to talk about is like the main thing about this book is the injury system. The injury system where monsters can injure PCs, but also the injury system where PCs can injure the monsters or the NPCs they're fighting. As you can see, there's character options, there are spells, there are feats, there is a feat called cruel spell casting, stuff like that. There is an appendix, there is monsters, non-player characters. There is a lot in this 222 pages thick book. Now, I want to talk about the injury system and kind of explain it to you, because this is the main downside of the book. The main thing that I don't know why, but it is incredibly like hard explained. I don't know how to say it, but it's really hard to comprehend from this text where they try to explain it. And it's only for me personally, after reading this 5 times and then reading the example like 3 or 4 times, that I get it. So I want to quickly explain it to you, at least like the main thing about it. I want to quickly explain to you so you can kind of like get a sense of what it is and see if you want to have it in your game, if you want to use it in your game. So there's 2 ways of inflicting injuries. First one, the monsters to the to the PCs, and of course the PCs to the monsters. Let's start about this core injuries system, where the characters can take injuries from monsters. The reason that I think I should explain this is because I read online from a few people that they all found it really hard to comprehend. Although the system isn't really that hard, they found it hard to comprehend. It's just worded in, I don't know, it's hard to comprehend for some reason. But other than that, it is a great system if you use it, and it is for those kinds of people that like are more like for that, I don't know, those video games. They say it in the back right here. If you're a fan of combat aesthetics in shows like Castlevania or The Witcher, or love the kill animations in games like God of War, Sekiro, and Shadow of Mordor, then Injuries and Vile Deeds will be the perfect addition to your game. And that is exactly what it is. It is for those kinds of people that love Souls-like games, that just want their games to be even more deadly and realistic, and that want, like, normally you're like, oh, you dish out 8 damage or 20 damage or whatever, but now this damage can kind of get like a reason why it's that much damage, if you know what I mean. If you cut off an arm or something like that, it now actually does something mechanically if you cut off an arm and stuff like that. So there is an injury threshold table right here, and all you need to look at as a player is your max hit points. So let's say you as a player have less than 25 max hit points. Let's say you have 24 max hit points, which means you fall in this in this first line category here. There are 4 levels, well, there's actually 5, actually even 6 levels of injuries you can get: setback, dangerous, handicap, and deadly. After that becomes lethal, and after that becomes death. You just die, right? If you take damage equal to this number, right? God damn it, to this number right here, you are injured, and you get a setback injury. As you can see right here, there's setback, dangerous, handicap, and deadly right here, right? So you take a setback injury. Now, you cannot take a dangerous injury, you cannot take a handicap injury, and you cannot take a deadly injury. These thresholds are for something else, and that's what I found so difficult about like comprehending, but then once I got it, right? So if you take a setback, let's say you are, I don't know, Steve the Wizard, you have 24 hit points, which does, right? You get attacked and you take 15 points of damage. Oh, that's a setback injury, right? You then roll a d10, or the GM rolls a d10 or whatever, and you twist your ankle. The character has their movement speed reduced by 10 until they finish a short rest. Simple enough, right? Then, if the combat goes on, and you would take this again, this type amount of damage again, you would think that you take another setback injury, but that's not how it works. You take then the next injury, right? You then take a dangerous one. A dangerous one, for example, is a jar wrist. Now you have the twisted ankle and the jar wrist that does something mechanically. It's an awesome system. Now, then if you would take this again, you already having a setback, you already having a dangerous, it goes to handicap. You then take a handicap injury. A handicap injury, just a, I don't know, you roll a d10, let's say open wounds. The character loses 1d6 hit points at the end of each of their turns while they are conscious until they finish a long rest. A character who is unconscious as a result of this injury may benefit from a long rest even if they are unconscious. Cool stuff, right? It then goes on. If you then would take another one, you take a deadly one. If you then take another one, you go to lethal, and lethal just says the character dies after the last initiative slot in the next round. That is the basic system about it. You take, every characters should note their maximum hit points. For example, your maximum hit points are 100, so you're still not at 125, you're at 110, let's say. Then you are in this row. And it is built in a way that chances of you getting injuries go up the more hit points you have. It is kind of quite forgiving in the beginning, because chances of taking 15 points of damage in one like single attack from a monster when you are still in like lower tiers of play, lower levels of play, those chances are pretty slim. While chances of taking 35 when you have like have like 125 hit points, taking 35 damage in like one particular round, those chances are much higher. So I really like the game design here. It is really cool game design. If I would have to say one thing about it, it is that I would have loved seeing like, I don't know, more 10 options per here, right? Because it's a D10. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 per. Are all of them 5 options? No, this is only 3 options. So I don't know. There should be like a little bit more. Now, to keep track of all of this stuff, there is this. There is the character sheet. Let me see in my OBS if you can see this. Yes, you can see this. There is, where am I? Yes, right here. There is a character sheet right here where you can keep track of all that. You can have like rests remaining, like an injury, setback, dangerous, handicap, deadly. So you title your injury, what it does, if it has a lasting effect, the threshold. You write down all your thresholds for your injuries. Now you might be asking yourself, like, why are the other ones here if you only have to meet this one and then you just take the next one? Well, that is for if an attack would reduce you to 0 hit points, you immediately take that injury threshold difficulty thing, injury level thing. So for example, let's say you already have a setback and you already have a dangerous injury, right? If you then take 36 points of damage, you get healed, all that stuff, you would take 36 points of damage, which would always reduce you to 0 hit points. But even if you only take 20 points of damage, but maybe you only have 10 left, right? That reduces you to 0 hit points. If that attack reduces you to 0 hit points, you then get the highest possible injury threshold level for the damage you've taken. Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense. Anyway, for example, you take 20 points of damage, which knocks you unconscious. You take another dangerous one. Maybe you take 25 points in damage, which knocks you unconscious. You take a handicap one. Maybe you take 35 or higher. You take a deadly one. So yeah, here, these thresholds are already higher than your max hit points, but right here it's not. So this one could like if you are on max hit points, this would not reduce you to 0 hit points, but if you are not on max hit points, you maybe only have 80 left, and then you take 85, you immediately suffer from a deadly injury. So that is why the other thresholds numbers are in here. I think it's an awesome system. It's a bit hard to explain in the beginning, but once you get it, you just get it. It's awesome. You roll for the random effects, and I think this could add like a lot of storytelling and role-playing kind of stuff in your game. Also, there might be game masters or players who have a harder time describing combat. I don't have that problem. I always describe combat in a very cinematic way, but a lot of people are like, oh, you dish out 8 damage and oh, you dish out 30 damage, and they have a hard time like making it cinematic, like what happens, oh, you knock him out unconscious and you those people can get a lot of help from a system like this, because those people are more number heavy people, meaning they wouldn't mind adding another thing to their 5th edition game, but at the same time, they whatever happens actually helps the players in that game kind of get a picture of what happens to their character. Now, of course, if creatures are allowed to cut off arms of player characters, then player characters should be allowed to cut off arms of creatures. And that is where the system comes in for inflicting injuries on NPCs and monsters. Now, this system is actually exactly the same and completely different. So what you need to do as a player is kind of like say before you even do an attack roll, anything that involves an attack roll is plausible, and you need to declare that you're trying to inflict a wound. You need to declare that before you roll. Very, very important. And you can choose 4 or is it 5 points on the monster that you want to target. The first one being its attacks, the second one being its defenses, its mobility, its special attacks, or its special mobility. Attacks are just like, I don't know, its arm that's holding a sword or whatever. Defenses are like immunities and resistances and all that stuff. Special attacks could be like things like, I don't know, a breath weapon or maybe a spell or trample ability and stuff like that. And special mobility could be like its burrowing speed or its flying speed. Maybe you want to cut off a wing of a wyvern, something like that, which is really cool, right? So this is actually kind of like the same type of table that you see for the players, but it's different because here the threshold you get is immediately the wound they take. So let's say you're fighting a monster that has 110 max hit points. Still not 125, so it falls in this category, right? If you then deal 30 damage or more, if it's not 40, then you give it a handicap, and a handicap against whatever you are targeting. So you need to declare before you attack, you need to declare what you're targeting. You're like, I have my sword of greatness and I want to attack the wyvern's wings, which is against its special mobility. You want to maybe slow its flying speed or whatever, and you then dish out, I don't know, 32 points of damage in like one swing or 2 swings, because multi-attack and that kind of stuff, it stacks. You then give it a handicap. The creature must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw at the start of its turn or be unable to use one of its special movements, attacker's choice, until the start of its next turn. This injury can be gained multiple times, choosing a different movement speed each time. So if you have a creature that has flying speed and burrowing speed, you can attack those things together. Now, something that I think is really cool is you give up a little bit of damage when you do this. Because you are declaring that you are focusing on one particular thing, so the chances of you hitting an arm specifically, as opposed to like something about this giant, if you want to just attack it, chances of hitting somewhere on its body are much higher than chances of exactly hitting its arm trying to cut it off, something like that, right? So you actually have a damage loss in your attack if you choose to attack and inflict injury. You can also just straight up attack. You can just ignore this system completely as a player if you want. You can just straight up attack and dish out the damage you want to dish out. If you didn't declare any injuries, you're not going to give it any injuries. That said, if you declare an injuries, you have to subtract these numbers from your attack, then see the damage you've been you dealt to the creature, and then see whatever the creature suffers from. It is kind of the same thing, but it's also different, and I think this is a little bit more streamlined than the one that could happen to the players. So there's a little bit less work for the GM, because the GM already has enough work and the players don't yet have enough work, right? So I like both systems, but I like the streamlined version. I like this one better, and I don't know. I somehow wish this was a little bit more streamlined. Maybe when I play it, it would be more streamlined than I think it is. But overall, the system is awesome for those people who want to add that kind of depth into the combat of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Now there's a lot more about the injury system, a lot more details about like what attacks apply and what attacks don't apply and all that kind of stuff, but you can read that for yourself if you decide to pick up this book. They also go into the recovery system, treating injuries in combat, treating injuries outside of combat. I really like this piece of artwork. This person probably has like a severe injury or something. This person is trying to heal them or at least help them survive a little bit longer until the helicopter arrives that's going to pick them up, with like 5 medics and a doctor in it, and which this recovery system also is really, really, really good and really well thought out. It's not just like roll a DC 15 medicine check and you're healed. Well, in some cases it is. Sometimes it's just a short rest and you're healed. But other injuries take a little bit of like, there's rests required, medicine DC, temporary recovery. There's, if you get like a potion of healing, gives your medicine check bonus a +1, all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here that actually makes this system really, 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 really cool for those people who like that kind of stuff. But those details are for you to find out if you grab the book for yourself. And I've noticed that this video is already 19 minutes long, which is dangerously long for the YouTube algorithm to actually pick up and push to you. So if you're watching this, I'm kind of lucky. So I decided to cut this video here and make a part 2 about it tomorrow, about some creatures that are in here that I absolutely love, with some really cool mechanics actually, some spells in here, some feats in here, the player options that are in here. I want to talk about more about that kind of stuff in this book, because other than the injury system, Injuries and Vile Deeds actually has a lot to offer. So until next video about Injuries and Vile Deeds, bye bye.